Hey everybody, it's Attorney Veronica McClendon. I am here on this day after Christmas and I am just wanting to touch base with y'all. I'm gonna give folks a little time to log in or not log in, but to join me live and to participate while I'm here. I um I just did a live video, so if you just saw me, you probably like, why is she here again? But I had so much fun that I wanted to come back and do another live video. And I wanted to actually be present here on YouTube because I did it on Zoom before and I was like focused on the Zoom room and I wasn't focused on YouTube. So I'm here again if you are already tuned in. And if you just joining now, I'm here right now. Attorney Veronica McClendon. I am the owner and CEO of McClendon Law and Consulting. I'm just on here this day after Christmas and I just wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about heirs property again. So I'm in a coaching program and our coach this morning, he leads a daily call. And the daily call today, the topic was basically something along the lines of, what do you want to accomplish in your life? What do you want to do before you die? And so, of course, we're like, okay, we going straight in. Like, what we want to do before we die? I'm thinking, like, what do you want to do before in 2026? Like, what are your New Year's goals and things like that? But he was like, what do you want to do before you die? And as I continue talking, I do want, if y'all could just let me know in the comments if you hear background noise. I think my husband's making a smoothie or something. And the door that I had closed to block off the sound has been opened. So I'm gonna just let it be. But if y'all can't hear me, let me know in the chat and I will go close that door. Anyhow, I wanted to come on here and talk about heirs property in that context because I think that one of the things that I want to do in my lifetime while I still have time here on this earth, however long it may be, I hope it's a long, long time, but however long it is, I think that part of my purpose is to educate families about heirs property to help them understand, what the heirs property is, understand what they can do to really take advantage of the heirs property that they own, to make sure that whatever property they own, that they're able to leave a legacy that makes an impact for their children, their children's children, for their community, whoever it may be. I believe that part of my purpose is to help other people to get clear on their purpose so that they can leave a legacy that impacts future generations. And so a lot of that has to do with heirs property. To me, heirs property is like such a huge thing when it comes to legacy and things along those lines, because what we have is someone owned some property and it was family property and it's been in this family for multiple generations. And so to me, that's such a great example of legacy where you have the physical property that your ancestors owned and walked on, and that memories happen there, some great and some may not be so great. But you have memories, you have that connection to the family land, connection to the stories of what happened where. All of that is there, physically present in the family's life and available to them if they choose to participate and engage with it. And so, what I want to do is help families to have more control over those family assets that were left behind to them so that they can continue to create more stories, to continue to leave a legacy, to continue to have a place that can anchor the continuation of their family moving into future generations, if that's what they want. And so, what I wanted to talk to y'all today about is the why behind your heirs property. A lot of times when we talk about heirs property, we kind of just lump it all together. We assume everybody has the same goal, and that is just not the case. So, I want to talk about some reasons that families may have heirs property and may want to hold on to their heirs property, or reasons that they want to sell the property. I want to talk through some of those things. But I always like it when people participate with me. So if you have heirs property in your family and you want to do something with it, there is no judgment about what you want to do with your family property. I would love to see in the comments what your why is behind your family property. As I go through this list, if you have your own why, if one of the things that I list resonates with you, I would love to hear that so that we can just kind of see where everybody is. So, one of the reasons that a lot of families may be interested, or a lot of individuals may be interested in their family property, is because they actually want to make a profit. And they want to get as much money as possible from the sale of their family property and use that money to do something else they want to do with their life. So they might say, I'm not really going back to the family farm. I would love to sell the family farm, use the money to invest in my business. So that's one why that someone may have, that they want to access the money that they have inherited from their heirs property. They want to unlock the value in that family property so that they can use the money for a goal that they have. Another reason, that another why behind why someone may be interested in their family property, because they want to preserve that property for future generations. I know a lot of people say they know that their ancestors went through a lot to be able to keep the family property so that they can have access to it. And so what they want to do is make sure that it's still around for future generations so that they can have access to that family property. And so for some people, their why is that they want to preserve the property for future generations. For others, they want to honor their ancestors. They believe that their ancestors got this property, brought it into the family because they wanted to benefit the family, to bless the family. And so they believe the best way that they can honor their ancestors is to ensure that they don't lose this family property. Now, I do want to say that this can actually cause problems that a lot of people, I don't think they really anticipate that these issues could come up. But I'm always trying to get my clients to understand that this could be an issue. You wanting to honor your ancestors by holding on to their land could be the very thing that puts a weight on you and makes you sick and stressed. So we're trying to honor someone who's been gone. They lived their life, and your life is burdened because you're doing everything you can to hold on to this property that's not able to sustain itself. And so I do encourage people that when honoring your ancestors is a goal of yours when it comes to your family property, yes, you should want to honor your ancestors, but don't do it to your detriment. And there are ways that you can honor your ancestors by holding on the family land, or even if you decide to sell it, you can do it in a way that honors their legacy more than you becoming stressed and strained to do that. Because I don't think that anybody's ancestor who truly loves them, I don't think that they would have wanted their family to hold on to the land at all costs. Like they don't want you keeping this house if you getting sick and you can't survive because you're working hard to protect something that they left you. If it's going to be more of a burden than a blessing, I think that most people will want their children, their descendants, to get rid of the burden so that they can actually live a blessed life. Most people, when they buy a house, they buy land, and they want it to benefit their children and their grandchildren. They're doing it because they want them to have a better life than they did. So if you working 5 jobs and working from sun up to sundown just to hold on to this property, then you don't have a better life than your ancestors by doing that. So that's not what they want. So I do want to just put that little plug there, that honoring your ancestors is amazing, but what I do like to always also say is that sentimental value does not pay the bills. But that doesn't mean that we can't have sentimental value. It just means we got to find a way to make the property pay its own bills so that we can like truly enjoy that sentimental value. Another why behind why someone may be engaged in their family property and their heirs property is because they want to provide a place for their family to stay. So I love it when families have 100 acres or so and they set aside maybe 10 acres so that the family can have residential areas. So they might say everybody get a quarter acre, or everybody gets a half an acre or a whole acre, and we're gonna divide the property up into these smaller parcels. That's gonna be where family members can live. Maybe we put 5 houses on the property that the family comes together to build, and then we can provide a place for family members to stay on a short-term basis if they come to visit the property, or even maybe they can rent it out on a long-term basis. But if your goal is to make sure that your family always has a place to stay, that is going to be driving how you move about when you're working to handle things concerning your family's heirs property. Some people want to make it a recreational property for their family or maybe even for other people. They might say, I would love to put a cabin, or I want to rehab the cabin that's already on the property. And I want to put some fish in the pond and kind of make it nice and, look nice, and maybe even put, decorate the house so that it has like it brings people back to a certain time of life or a certain time period. I want to rehab this property so it helps people to have a place to retreat. Maybe I'm creating a writer's retreat, and I want people who are writing books to be able to come and have a place where they can stay and be inspired by nature. Or maybe I want to be able to provide a place for my family to go hunting, and we want to be able to rent this place out for other people to come hunt. Whatever it might be, that could be the why behind your family property, the why behind your efforts to protect your family property. Or you might want to create a long-term income stream for yourself. So we started out with a lump sum income stream where basically you're selling the property and everybody who owns an interest in the property is able to get whatever their interest is worth. But some families might say we want to actually create a long-term strategy with this property so that I can actually make money with the property over time. And it might be that we don't just get a one-time check. We're getting annual payments or quarterly payments, whatever it might be. We might keep the money in some kind of an entity, like for example, we might create an LLC, and the money comes into the LLC, and then the LLC uses that money and invests it for improvements to the property, or perhaps they might invest it to create a scholarship fund for the young people who come from the family, or maybe a business startup fund. Whatever it may be, like, you really have to be very clear on your why behind your family property. And the reason why I say you need to be clear on your why is because your why is going to determine, one, is it worth it to you to take the steps to clean up the ownership of your family property? Two, your why is going to determine what steps you take to clean up the ownership. It might be that you need to get 100% clear ownership, or your why may not require 100% clear ownership. You might be able to go about it a different way. But I always am encouraging the people that I work with to get clear on, why are you doing this? What outcome do you seek when it comes to heirs property? What goals do you have when it comes to your heirs property? So I just wanted to come on here and talk about that a little bit. I want to hear from y'all, if want to get in the chat and talk to me a little bit, because I want to know, like, what questions do you have? What goals do you have? What are some things that me as an attorney I need to know so that I can help serve people better? One thing that I'm constantly trying to do is figure out how to put programs out there, to put information out there to help people with their heirs property, even if they don't have money to pay a full retainer. I'm looking for ways that we can just support people and help them to get closer to the goals that they have for their family property. So if you have any questions about that, ideas about that, please put that in the comments as well, because it just helps me to better serve people like you who are looking for solutions, who are looking for an answer, who are looking for a pathway that they can follow. So if y'all wouldn't, mind, engage with me, say what's up. Even if you just want to say what's up, Attorney McClendon, how you doing? Hey, this is so and so for South Carolina. I just wanted to say what's up. I'm here. So I know that real people are actually here. Hey, oh, somebody asked if I could see the chat, and I must not be able to see it because I did not see those questions. So I'm gonna look and see what I can find. I don't know why. Let's see. Give me a minute, y'all. If anybody have any questions. Uh-oh. I'm here and I'm on this live stream and now I'm trying to figure out this thing. But hey, y'all. Hey, Travis. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. I am trying to see what my questions are. Y'all, I got a lot to learn about YouTube because I do not know where these questions are. Somebody said they had questions in the chat and I can't see them. So I'm gonna find these questions. Okay. You'll screen. Okay, so they'll screenshot and ask those questions again. So while they get those questions up, If you have any questions, apparently I can see something because I see some people's comments that are coming in, but I don't see other ones. So um if you have a question or anything you want to put in the chat, please do. I'm trying something new, y'all. It's the day after Christmas. That means it's Kwanzaa. I actually really get excited about Kwanzaa. And I don't know if I would have gotten excited about Kwanzaa if it weren't for our local community and the Kwanzaa events that we have here in Macon. But today is Umoja, and Umoja means unity. And so, even just in the spirit of unity, in the spirit of Emoja, I'm gonna be doing more live events like this where I get to just talk to y'all and really get a sense of what's important to you and how I can better support the folks that are like working every day to try to get clear title to their family property, people who are wanting to do it intentional estate planning, not just filling out some papers to get a will done, but someone who's actually thinking through the legacy that they want to leave. I'm wanting to help people to do that more because I see the power in that. As an attorney who has done estate planning, probate, heirs property for several years now, I have seen some things that have been very interesting. One of the things that I've seen that I really love to see is when there's that family ancestor who was very intentional about the kind of legacy that they wanted to leave, and they actually mapped out what they wanted their family members to do. So they may have went and said, okay, I'm gonna buy 50 acres today, and that's all that I can afford right now. But then next year I'm gonna buy 10 more acres, and the next year I'm gonna buy 20 more acres, and the next year, and they just keep adding to the amount of land that they're acquiring. And then they are telling their family, this is what I want y'all to do. I'm going to divide this property up this way. I'm going to make sure that each of you get a certain amount of acres. I'm going to make sure, back in the day, each of you got a mule and you got a plow that you can use to make the most out of the property that you have. And just all these different things that a lot of the folks that I see that they actually took the steps to make sure that the future generations had something of value that could help them with um, whatever they were dealing with in life. And I love it when you know the stories, when they can tell you, well, Granny bought this particular piece of land when the baby was born because he wanted to be able to build us a new house because we were getting too big for the house we were in. So Granddaddy wanted to get us a new house, and he wanted it to be over here by the main road because he wanted to make sure that we could walk to school. Like all of that stuff that goes into the thinking behind why someone may have acquired land, or they may have been someone who was enslaved, and or they had a parent who was enslaved, and they wanted to make sure that their family would always have a place to be so that they could have a place to call home, a place to call their own, a place where they would feel safe. And they actually, created that for their family members. I love hearing those stories. I love hearing how when families were able to acquire property, it helped them to be resilient against like different things that were going on, whether it was racism or economic issues or whatever it may have been. They were able to be resilient in the midst of all of that because of this family land. And then because of it, they were able to leverage the land. So, for example, they may have had a child that they wanted to be able to send to college, and they would get that child. They'll do something, sell a piece of land or lease out some land so that they can have the money to pay the college tuition for that child. Like all of that stuff, I just love it. And I think we all have the opportunity to continue a legacy like that of our own. So I am looking at this chat. I see some questions. Says, how do I stop a sale until paperwork is straightened out? It's clear. They don't know I'm interested. It's a house, not acres, no timber lien. Okay, so it just depends on what is going on. So this question in the chat is asking about how to stop a sale. First thing we have to know is what kind of sale are we trying to stop? Is this a tax foreclosure sale? Is this a mortgage foreclosure sale? Is this a family that's looking to sell property and they are actually coming together to sell it? First, you got to know what kind of sale we're talking about because there might be some legal things. If it's like, like a tax sale, there's a whole process for that. If there's a mortgage foreclosure sale, there's a process for that. If it's a family that's wanting to sell property, then it might be, and I see here it's a family house. So when the family is wanting to sell it, the question is who's selling it? Do they have legal authority to sell it? How far are they in the transaction? Like if they already have a contract with a buyer, then if they stop the sale of the property, then they might get sued by that person who is trying to buy the property. I've worked with a lot of families where maybe one member of the family decided they wanted to sell the family property and they were perhaps the executor of an estate. They had the legal authority to sell the property and they entered a contract with a potential buyer. That buyer wants the property. And so they're going to make sure that if you don't fulfill your promise under the contract, they might sue you for specific performance. So excuse me, it depends on how far into the process you might be where someone is deciding that they want to sell the process. If you have a buyer, you have a signed contract, stopping a sale may not be that easy because then you're in the process of potential litigation by stopping the sale and there's a contract in place. But if we're before a contract actually is in place, then maybe it is a matter of saying, hey, I know you have a potential buyer, but I want to be the buyer, and letting the family know I want to buy this property. But anytime you want to buy the property, I tell folks you need to be ready to pay full price. Because if someone wants to sell the property and they got somebody who's going to buy it for 100,000, and you are a family member, you like, but I'm family, can I buy it for 50,000? They're gonna be like, well, we can get 100,000 if we sell it to this person. Why should we sell it to you for 50? Saying that, well, I'm a part of the family, I need to do this, it's the right thing, is not going to convince most people. It might convince some, but most people are going to say, okay, well, if you want to do the right thing, then why don't you beat this, beat us, beat this other buyer out in terms of offering a higher price. So I always tell people you have to make sure that that you are understanding what the law says has to be done, and then working within that. Because sometimes you're looking at what's fair. Everybody doesn't see what's fair as the same, so they might see it differently. So it really depends on your particular situation whether or not you can stop a sale of property. If it's just people that you have to stop because okay, it says I'm a sister, I'm entitled to it, they want to give it to non-blood kids. So I mean, a lot of that is if you really are legally entitled to the property, then it depends on what's going on. I can't even begin to get into ways that you can stop it, but usually if you are entitled to property, then um then you would be able to stop a sale unless the person who's selling has 100% legal authority to sell the property. How to do that? I would say definitely need to talk to a lawyer about it in your own state. Talk one-on-one about it because there's so many different things that could impact what could happen in that situation. So I would say that you just need to talk to a lawyer licensed in your state as soon as possible, because I don't know like where things are in the process, what needs to happen, what rights this person does have to sell. I don't know any of that. And so those are things that you and your lawyer would be able to talk about to figure out, is there something you can do to stop this sale? And then someone, okay, if you're in Atlanta, give us a call. We'll be open Monday. And just give us a call and we can schedule a consultation and see if we can help and talk more about it. Have a question here. Do adoptive children have rights to property even if they're not initially listed in will? It depends. I probably say it depends to 95% of the questions. Because it really depends. So if there's a will and someone has left property to their whoever they want to leave it to, they can leave it to their blood children, they can leave it to their neighbor, to their dog, and people do leave their whole estate to their dog. They can leave it to any kind of entity. Of course, the dog can't own the property, so they'll leave it to someone who's going to be the custodian for the dog. But they can leave it to anybody they want to leave it to. And if someone is an adopted child and they were left out of a will, they might be able to contest the will and say, hey, I should be part of this because I'm a child of this particular person. Um, Whether or not they win is going to depend on what the current law is, but it also is going to depend on what the rest of the will says. Because if the will says, I have adopted a son and his name is John, and John does not get anything from my estate, this is my plan, this is my intent, then John is more than likely not going to get anything from the estate because the will said John is not going to get anything from the estate. But let's say that someone has 3 children, their biological children. They create a will and they leave their property to their 3 biological children. Then 5 years later, they adopt a child and they raise this child up. Like I have a friend who their parents, they were grown. We were grown, and their parents adopted a little boy because his parents had died. They adopted his child and raised him up. Now that child is grown too. So in that case, if you got a will and it's like I leave my property to my 3 biological children, you end up adopting a child later, and then after you die, the family is probating this will. That adopted child might, depending on a lot of different factors, they might be able to come in and say, I know that my mama would not have left me out of her will. She raised me since I was a baby and she treated me like I was her own. She would not have left me out. So in that case, a court might say that the right thing to do is to include them with the other children, particularly if the will says something like, if I reference my children, then I'm including any children that are born to me or adopted by me later. So a lot of it could depend on what the actual will says to determine whether or not that adopted child can participate in the estate. But what I will say with all of that is that if your life changes, you create a will and your life changes, you need to update your will. You need to update your trust because you don't want courts having to figure this out. Like you saw how I went back and forth and like maybe this and maybe that, but under these circumstances and perhaps all of that stuff, you don't want courts trying to do that. You want to make it clear this is what I want. I'm in my right mind. I update my will every 5 years. This is exactly what I want done. You want to make that clear so that people are not guessing and fighting over, which is the worst. I tell you, people who die with the least, their family be fighting the most. And they fight so much that it ends up that nobody gets anything because they spent all the money in legal fees. So you don't want your family doing that. So the main thing I would say is to update your will, update your trust so that there is no question about who you want to include in your estate. Now, if something happens and you didn't get around to updating it, then that's when the courts will come in and try to look at what the will says. They're going to look at the laws and they might look at how you operated in your life before you died. And that's just too much to be leaving up to chance. So it's good for us to have our affairs in order so that we can make sure things go the way we want it to go. So I'm gonna look in the chat, y'all. I'm having fun with this. I'm gonna have to do this more often because y'all engaging. Let's see. What else we got? I don't have any more questions in the chat. But if y'all have any more questions, I will be here at least for the next 5 to 10 minutes. If you want to ask one more thing. The main thing I would say when it comes to heirs property, estate planning, probate, all of this stuff is that there's more, we have more power than we often let ourselves on to have. We kind of think like so many people think, oh, the state gonna take everything, and that's just not the truth. The state only comes in when there's no family to come in. Very likely, the if anybody ends up with property because you didn't have a will, it's gonna be your heirs, or it's gonna be a creditor, or it's gonna be maybe a local county government. Then the state gonna be in the line at the end, but they're gonna be there in case nobody else shows up saying that they have a claim to your estate. But if we actually put plans in place ourselves, then we get to be in control as to what happens. So that is what I'm planning to do in 2026 is to just spread the word that we need to get this stuff in order because we can actually like shape the future by putting a plan in place instead of just letting everything be up to chance. Let's see. So there was one thing I wanted to say, but my mind is not remembering it. I cannot remember what I was going to say, but what I will say is if you do not have a will, Oh, what I was going to say is start where you are. And so that leads into what I'm going to say now. If you do not have a will or a trust in place, and you say, I ain't got money to be paying all these lawyers all this money, like start somewhere. Start with a very basic will. If you qualify for legal services, you might be able to go to your local legal services office and get a will, very simple will there, or you may be able to pay a lawyer to get a simple will that you may not qualify for the free service, but maybe you can get just a very basic will just to have things in place with your local lawyer, your estate planning lawyer. Or you might be at a place where you need to go ahead and get full service trust and all kinds of detailed planning. Wherever you are, just start where you are. And if you don't know where you fall, just reach out to a lawyer, schedule a consultation. If you're in Georgia, hey, I'm here, give me a call, and we can help you to get started and start thinking about it. You don't have to figure it all out before you start working with your lawyer. You can just hire a lawyer who knows estate planning, and they will guide you through the process. Someone like me, I'm going to have you to fill out a questionnaire. I'm going to get a whole lot of information about you. And if you don't have all the information when you first call me, I will follow up with you and I will say, hey, we will have a meeting and I'm going to have you pull out this list of documents and we're going to go through it together so we can make sure that you actually get started. But I do want y'all to get started in 2026. We don't need to go into 2027 without having this stuff in order. Y'all done heard me. Y'all done heard the other people tell y'all it's time to get your estate planning in place. So make sure you're doing that. And I appreciate y'all for tuning in with me on this day after Christmas. Had a little fun talking and rambling and answering questions. But if I can help you, if my firm can help you, I'm attorney Veronica McClendon. I am the owner and CEO of McClendon Law and Consulting. We are located in Georgia, Macon, Georgia. We serve the entire state of Georgia, particularly when it comes to estate planning and heirs property. And we serve Middle Georgia when it comes to probate because we don't want to be traveling to probate courts all over the state. Um, Subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you are watching and you are not a subscriber, please subscribe. Please like this video. Everybody who's on here now, all 5 of y'all at this moment, please like this video. And everybody in the future who comes, please like this video. And I have a question here. Can you help with a letter to a trustee about the terms of a trust? I probably can. So definitely, if you're in Georgia, reach out to me to see if I can help you. Depending on what is going on, we can at least reach out to that trustee and find out what the trust says if you're entitled to know. They might say, I'm reading the trust and it doesn't say you're entitled to get information about this trust. So if that's the case, then you can either take them for their word or you can take them to court and say, hey, I don't believe you. So I want you to show me the trust. And if the trust is still private and the court is not going to be able to allow you to see the trust, at least they can have somebody review it and see if it says something in there that you need to know. And if it does say something you need to know, then they'll make sure you know it. And if it does not say stuff that you need to know, they'll tell you there's nothing in here that this trust allows you to see, so you won't be able to see it. But if you do need to, then we can definitely help to start that process to get the information from the trustee. Because sometimes it's getting a letter from a lawyer saying, "Hey, I represent this person, and we need to know X, Y, Z." People will be like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna get this done because I don't want to end up in court." And some people say, "Well, I ain't doing it unless you take them to court." And in that case, we just have to take them to court. I more than likely wouldn't do that, but I can recommend you to someone who does not mind going to court to fight about these things. Um, so those of you in Georgia, reach out to me. Let's at least start with a consultation. And if you're not ready to hire me, then you're not ready to hire me. You can just hire me when you're ready, or hire somebody else. Because I don't want you coming to me if you don't want to work with me. I want you to go to the lawyer who's going to be right for you. And so if I'm the one that can help you, I would be happy to. If I'm not the one who can help you, I would be happy to help you find someone who can, because the more people who are getting this done, the better. So thank you all for tuning in, for sharing, for asking questions. I'm gonna do this again soon. Maybe we'll do it every day of Kwanzaa. We'll see. But either way, y'all take care. Thank you so much for tuning in, and tell somebody to tune in next time. Bye.